Motion approved with correction, seconded by Mr. Brown. All those in favor? All those opposed? So moved. We have under new business the building department memo, reference unsafe building for 84 Mearns. Again, if anyone needs to review that really quick, what they are asking, the department requires a decision from the village board of trustees as to whether the building should be officially declared unsafe, and the owner ordered to repair or remove the building in accordance with Chapter 76-5. Do I have any discussion on this matter?
What was the decision made by the building department?
That's the problem. That's why.
He is saying it's unsafe, but he needs us to move on. He's saying it's unsafe.
Now, there are about 9 different reasons.
Correct. Basically, he can't move forward without the board saying that he can. So we need to declare it an unsafe building. Do I have a motion to declare 84 Mearns an unsafe building? And the owner order to repair or remove the building in accordance with Chapter 76-5. I have a motion, Mr. Brown. Do I have a second? I have a second from Charlie Murphy. All those in favor? Opposed? So moved. Approval treasurer to go to the NICOM training September 9th through 12th, Saratoga, New York. Do I have any questions? He has reviewed the agenda and feels that there are some excellent programs that would definitely help the treasurer. Do I have a motion to approve going to the NICOM training September 9th through 12th, Saratoga Springs? I have a motion from Mr. Mellon. Do I have a second? If you need more time, please take it. While we are waiting on that, you guys go ahead and look that over, because we have to approve the bills and claims. Before we do that, if I can get our treasurer just to, you wanted to have a few comments on that real quick.
Yes.
If you would. Keep looking that over, hold that thought. Do not pay attention to it.
Well, we have an open motion.
I know. He's just, no, you guys go ahead and look it over. Are you ready a second?
No, but
Go ahead.
we're in the process now.
That's okay. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, Village Board, thank you. One of the things that I've asked the mayor and the board to do is to substantiate to the community the dollars that are being spent. When you basically state you have $112,000 being spent on a bills and claims, unless you go to Village Hall and FOIL or ask us information, you really don't know what things are being spent on. And the mayor has agreed that it's a good idea. And one of the things that is really important is that you see $112,191.67. Sometimes we have very high dollar value items that essentially are not necessarily spent directly on the village infrastructure. One case here is I signed off on approximately $60,000 for a Section 8 program. Now, our Section 8 program helps a lot of needy families, approximately 62. And when you add up all the costs involved in that and the federal dollars that are provided to the village, it creates quite a high number. So when you look at these bills and claims, over 50% is going to one program that is federally funded. It's not village tax dollars that are going toward this. So the reality is approximately $54,000 of village tax money was spent on things related to the village. And it's really important that you know, we as an entity let the villagers know what the money is being spent on. So one of the things that we'll do in the future is try to itemize the higher ticket items so that the residents in the village know where the dollars are going. And that's, I feel, is very important. The mayor and the board agree. And we're going to try to have a lot more transparency as to what things are being spent on. Thank you.
While you're up there, I got a couple questions, if it's okay.
Sure.
Mr. Mayor. Are we we used to get monthly treasurer's reports typed in writing. Are we ever going to see those again, or is it going to be just at the meetings? Just, I'm asking.
Well, you said the precedent from the previous treasurer was
Correct.
giving you reports.
Yeah, because that was declared by the audit that we had. We had to get
Yeah.
a monthly report.
Basically, we will be in full compliance as soon as I'm able to get through all of the books and all the issues. You know, Trustee DeSalvo, if you want me to go into a lot of specifics, I can, but there's a lot of issues right now.
How about just an email, like with a report?
Well,
Like
I'm
what you're
just
going
not going to report. There are things that make it very difficult for me to do a report. Okay? And until I'm able to get my hands around some of those things, because unfortunately I didn't really have much of a turnover, so I'm having to go through line by line and take a look at everything. Ultimately, we will have everything in compliance with the state from what the audit said, and probably, you know, some potential future things that need to come up that have been discovered that need to be reviewed.
So we will get one eventually?
Absolutely. Any other
Okay,
questions?
thank you very much, and I appreciate that.
Okay, thank you.
You haven't asked for one, and I appreciate you responding.
Absolutely, thank you.
Okay, is everyone, just need a little more time? Take it. Farmers Market. Farmers Market is every Sunday, and they're doing a fantastic job. That is at Lot 2, across from Sacred Heart. Let's talk about Sacred Heart. Sacred Heart, August 9th, 9 to 11, is an open house for the Holy Angels of the Hudson Valley. This is all right out of the paper. I hope you're reading it. And lastly, and I did miss the run from the Rotary. And lastly, Meet a Trooper. The Hudson Valley Women's Association and friends will be hosting a New York State Trooper, a troop recruiter from Troop F from 4:30 to 5:30. They will share career opportunities with the New York State Police, and the deadline for the exam, which is September 8th. This will be July 28th from noon to 2. You can register at the Farmers Market on July 28th from noon to 2 for that. Okay, but that's all in the paper. If you'd like to meet a trooper, you have an opportunity.
Is there something wrong with that date?
What's that?
You're saying
July
July
28th?
28th.
July 28th?
Or is there something wrong with my...
Okay, I just said that's.
Nope, it says July 28th. Register at the Farmers Market on
I
July
saw the
28th.
paper myself, I didn't pick up.
But you know what? That, they probably gave it to them before, and
I just.
yeah. I'm sure if you went to the Farmers Market, you can find someone. If you don't,
I don't want to-
fantastic.
I don't want to- Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Do we need to do this tonight, or is it okay if it's done at the next meeting if they need more time? Approve the NICOM.
The problem is the scheduling. I was talking with the village clerk,
Okay,
and
well,
she
wait.
was mentioning there's scheduling
No problem.
potential issues.
Just as a point of order, I think if we have a motion on the floor and it doesn't get seconded, I believe it dies, but we can't just move on. If we have a motion, we have to make.
You have to, no, I was just giving some information to Brad.
I know that, but I'm just saying.
I was giving everyone a chance to read it, because I know some people just received it. If we're not comfortable voting, let me know that. Is there no second, or would you like, have you not had an opportunity to look at it?
I would make a comment, and I mean this with no disrespect, but these conferences are very useful, and I do recommend that we support sending the treasurer to the conference. But as the mayor and Bob and I did, when we went to a NICOM conference earlier this year, we tried to do it on a real shoestring. So we went to a cheaper hotel, we paid for our own gas and all of that. Is there some compromise? Would you, there is a cheaper hotel.
Trustee Murphy, this figure here is not mine.
Oh, okay.
I'm completely in agreement with you that we do it as cheaply as possible, and I'm fine with that. There was a recommendation from previous people at because it's in that building, there is a lot of advantages because of the networking. But I'm perfectly fine on finding other options. As far as I'm concerned, it's,
Saratoga is really small. You can get back and forth.
yeah,
easily.
and I'm open to doing any of that. Again, that figure, I think probably that's the figure if you added everything up on the sheet that they sent out. But, you know, knowing my background, I'll try to get the best price possible. So, you know, whatever it takes. The only thing I don't think I can change is the fee to attend.
Yeah, the registration, that's $250 or $260.
Exactly. Exactly.
That's not a problem, it's the other costs.
Yeah.
4 days. No?
What's that?
I don't have a second, so if I don't have a second, then it's fine. No second.
I made the motion.
Oh, you made the motion, I'm sorry. So no second? I'm okay. Say no second so I can move on. I don't know if you're still looking at information.
No, I can't second it
That's
based on
fine.
the information.
That's fine. Mr. Brown?
No, they're not.
Mr. Sell? Okay, I will second the motion. Any other discussion on the item? Move to vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Nay? Nay? Nay?
I've got to say maybe.
I don't feel bad. It's what you do. It's okay. It's what boards do. Okay, so that was denied. We have a request for vendor permit. You have that in front of you.
Oh, gosh.
This is going to be an issue for me not to approve this per se, but the fact that it was $10 and not $50 or more. This is part of what we need to relook at, not just the application for Roe Park, but in our code that to do a vendor application is $10. This was from the 80s. So I am looking for someone else to help me with revamping these fees, as well as the form for applying for use of facilities and parades, so that we can get more information and better information on these forms. So if anyone wants to join me on that, you can see me. As far as the application itself, if everyone's had a chance to look it over.
I
So-
hate to be negative.
Again, you've used yours up.
I did, this is for a vendor for balloons and novelties for the upcoming Orange County Firemen's Parade. The committee has been soliciting ads from our local businesses, and they really are trying to make this of economic benefit to the community. This particular vendor is from Connecticut. Their sense was they really would prefer we not approve this.
Agreed. The fire department doesn't want us to approve it.
With the committee for the Orange County Volunteer.
Okay. But my question is, did they even come to you to be a vendor
No,
at your event?
not that I'm aware of.
Because that's, I mean, with the 4th of July, they actually go to the 4th of July. So this is, again, this is something else we have to look at. You know, they may need to give us a permit fee, but then the group itself that's having the function also needs to approve the vendors at their function. We can't say the balloon animal person can go to the fireman's function when it's the fireman's function. These are things we have to hammer out. So I have a request to deny it, so let's do that with a vote. Do I have, well, we don't get a motion, it's denied.
So moved.
You can't move, we don't want a motion, we already said that. Do I have a motion to approve the request for vendor permit? No, I do not. Vehicle and traffic resolution to clean up the village code language. I wonder what they were saying. This, I believe, was done by our police department. Mr. Patterson? Oh, before I forget, I saw you writing. When Mr. Zizi was up here and he was pointing out those two signs that should be on, you wrote those down? Just making sure, thank you. Okay, and right before we approve this, which I hope we get a motion, Charlie, I would like to point out that Mrs. Ashton sent a letter in several weeks ago about the fact there were no yellow lines on a particular curb, and people were parking right to the curb, and people couldn't get around it. I would like to thank Chief Scott and Pat Patterson getting right on top of it after we got the letter. Curbs were painted immediately, and that's what could happen when you let us know what we need. We don't see everything. If street lights are out, the police on a regular are going around, and if they see one, they know where the number is on the street light to call Orange and Rockland, tell them it's out. We're paying for these lights. We would like them on. If the street lights are out, if you see something else, any other problems, it's not being done because we don't want to do it. No, I'm not going to let that happen. It's not being done because we don't know it's a problem. So the more we can communicate, you can talk to Chief Scott.
I want to communicate.
Yeah.
Back of the poles, come down the ramp heading for Newburgh, go under the overpass, immediately on your right, behind the side of the Coles building, okay? Telephone wires, we believe they're telephone wires. They have been, it's been a couple of years. And now there's a huge, there's a huge branch laying on it, and it's this far from the guardrail. Hello, somebody can just grab a handful and say, go buy it. And maybe that's why our phone crackled down in the south end of town.
Excellent. And that's what we need. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. I forgot I wanted to bring that up. Thank you.
This is a resolution for vehicle and traffic in the Village of Highland Falls. I will read you the memo first. Following street in the Village Code 108-61 Schedule 12, parking prohibited at all times, needs to be amended. It currently reads, West Street, east side, beginning at a point formed by the corner of south side of Schneider Avenue and the east side of West Street, running thence northerly 200 feet more or less to a point 15 feet north of the fire hydrant on the easterly side of West Street. Exactly, we have the same one. It's amended to, on West Street, east side, at the intersection of Mountain Avenue and West Street North for a distance of 264 feet. A little simpler, much easier to enforce, and that's the reason we're doing it. Whereas the Board of Trustees is authorized and empowered to make amendment by resolution any rule or regulation for the reasonable control of traffic on the public streets of the village pursuant to section 108-3 of the Code of the Village of Highland Falls. Now, therefore, it is resolved by the Board of Trustees as follows. This is a type 2 action under seeker that section 108-61, Schedule 12, parking prohibited at all times, be amended, and the following be amended as follows. Name of street, West Street, side east, location at the intersection of Mountain Avenue and West Street North for a distance of 264 feet. Be it further resolved that the foregoing amendment, as it contained in this resolution, shall become effective immediately upon publication of same in the official newspaper of the village. We need a roll call or stay vote on that? Let's roll call.
Motion.
Can I get a motion?
Yes.
Charlie, she's over her slump. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Salvo. Roll call.
Trustee DeSalvo?
Aye.
Trustee Mellon?
Aye.
Trustee Brown?
Aye.
Trustee Murphy?
Aye.
Mayor Flynn?
Aye. The mayor declared this resolution adopted. All right, bills and claims. Do I have a motion to accept the bills and claims? Do I have a motion to accept the bills and claims?
I'll make a motion to accept the bills and claims.
Motion by Mr. Brown, second by Mr. Mellon. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Accepted. Discussion. West Point Auto Spa, just to give you an update, as of today, they have not moved the water meter to the proper spot. They have not paid their bill. They have not shown us where they moved our sewer line. So this is just discussion. We have not received the forms from the lawyer. complaint forms, or we will.
You did send a notice of violation.
We did send a note, the notice of violation. We do have a copy of the notice of violation for our viewing, and that will go out, that's actually already going out, but I wanted to bring the board up to speed to make sure they know what's going on. If they don't comply, I don't see any course but to cut them off, because it's just going to cost us more and more money. Thank you. This is just discussion. We don't have to vote on anything today. Again, I want to bring everyone to speed. Does anyone have any comments on this particular issue? Knights of Columbus building, I think we pretty much covered that. No? Lori to tell.
Good evening. I was watching from home and I'm a little confused because some of the information that I heard was not what I got from the county last week when I did a follow-up. You know, I've been working on it as a constituent issue. I've spoken a couple of times to the board about this. When I spoke to the director of the project and of the grants at the county level on, I think it was last Wednesday or Thursday, Pat, he had said they spoke to the village. The village has the contract. Actually, I have the contract on email. It's a 50-page contract, and that was with the village lawyers. For
With the village lawyers, not the village board.
Village lawyer for, well, it was sent to the board, and the board referred it to the lawyer for review. And the money is here. The money was released according to what they told me. They told me that 2 weeks ago, and they confirmed it last week that the money was at the county.
Who did you confirm that with?
Director of the program at the county level,
Name?
Mr. Mayfield.
Okay, Gina?
Well, he's her boss.
Okay.
Joanne's boss.
We talked to Joanne. We talked to Joanne today. Today. And as of today, the lawyers, the head of the program, I'll talk to Mr. Mayfield
I'll give him
tomorrow.
a call tomorrow too. I actually called him on another matter.
If that's the case, then
The way he indicated to me last week when I spoke to him was that the contract is here with the village, the money is there, they're just waiting for the village to sign off on a contract. There was some concerns on the village level about the length of the contract being, I believe, 10 years or something.
5 to 10 years, yes.
5 to
Clear it
10
up.
years. But, and that, he said everything was there and ready to go.
Okay.
That
We
was-
had
that
not
was what I
gotten
got.
that communication.
That's why I'm confused. I
Joanne
wanted to see where
Pizzino
it
is our
was.
contact. She's the one actually in charge of the project.
I know
That's her
Joanne.
boss.
Yeah.
That's the problem also,
Mr.
that may
Mayfield's her
be,
boss.
right, Mr. Mayfield may not have the actual, he may not be dealing directly with him, though he may be talking. So Mary Jane will have the answer from Mr. Mayfield when we get tomorrow for Friday's paper, so that you people will be
Mary
informed.
Jane, you can call me tomorrow. He's actually supposed to call me in the morning on another matter, and
I will call him and I will call Joanne to confirm that.
Because this is
Obviously, there's
this is
a,
what I heard when I talked to them.
well, then there's some confusion at the county level. Because the person who's in charge of the project, Joanne,
I'm just
says the
telling you
money's
what
not there.
I heard. I did a follow-up call with him on the thing because there was a couple of questions from senior citizens in the community back to our office again on constituent issues.
and when did you get a hold of him?
Last week, I believe it was Wednesday. or
Okay, on
Thursday,
that,
because I was on Friday.
if anybody does get information like that, again, would be awesome if the village knew about it.
That's why
Because
I'm
we,
here.
well, you knew last week, you just said,
I was under the impression you guys were on the same page.
that's what I'm saying. But
They
we need
spoke,
to,
I was speaking to him on a constituent issue, let me
Because you're
finish,
here
let
for
me
person.
finish. I was speaking to him on a constituent issue, he said he had spoke to the village, and that the village had the contract, the village had some concerns, whether it be 5 or 10 years, you were having your lawyer review it, only thing that was holding everything up was the signing of the contract and the acceptance of the contract from the village. That's what I was told.
okay, there's only 3 people that he would have talked to. Would have been Ben Gailey, Gina, or myself.
This is
And
where
none of us were
this is
contacted
where
by him. I
stood
understand.
on- from the
And we'll,
county
and you know
level.
what? We'll clear it up tomorrow. And we will make sure that you
We
guys
can do it
know
tomorrow because this is
exactly
what-
what's
I'm gonna
going
call him
on.
first thing in the morning,
Good.
and I'm gonna double clarify with him. This is what he told me last week.
Excellent. And Mary Jane will have that information for the paper on Friday.
That's why I was confused as to what I was hearing on TV. I'm like, well, that's not what I heard. So, that's
you.
why I came. You're welcome, thank you.
Okay, now Gina, we did not pass the addendum, correct? We need to do that. The addendum that you were given, does everyone have a copy of that, the addendum? that we have to do. I want to pass the addendum first. Because that's in business. And we just got that at 4:40 today. And that has to do with the building, so I'll make sure we pass that.
Here, you need it? You need it, Ben?
Yep. Okay. Community Development Block Program Municipal Agreement. Did everyone have a chance to look this over? Are there any questions? Do I have I don't need to read the whole thing. Do I have a motion to accept the addendum?
Need a motion for you to sign.
I need a motion for me to sign the addendum for the Community Development Block Program Municipal Agreements. Do I have that motion? Motion by Charlie Murphy. Second by Mr. Brown. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Signed. And it's done.
Ben, do you want to sign that one?
Sign this one. Take it. Mr. Brown, give that to Gina if you would. It's done.
Please.
Thank you. Okay. Tonight's Town of Highlands Fifth Amendment to the water supply. Okay. Fifth Amendment to the water supply agreement is made. Stay by between the Village of Highland Falls Municipal Corporation established pursuant to the laws of the state of New York. The office is located at Highland Falls, Town of Highland Municipal Corporation establishment. I'm not going to actually read the entire thing because this is during discussion. We, unless someone wants to motion it for new business, I had to put in discussion. I talked to June. Wasn't able to get Bob till this afternoon. We met with the school, and very favorable meeting, without question. We want to make sure that whatever water is available gets to the town for all the projects. Some of the numbers are not correct. The town and the village engineers are the same, but different people. The town engineer was under the impression that we had a 1 million gallon capacity, but he was informed that it's only at 700, not 1 million, which is 300,000 short. We also were under the impression that we were only using between 40 and 50,000 gallons for the projects as of now. Last week, the project was using 72,000 for who's hooked up right now. And this is at the board's pleasure, but I put this on discussion because I was not ready to move on this. At the meeting with the school, I did ask that Bob and I need to sit down. There needs to be several things hammered out as far as what we need by the village and what the town needs when they accept this water. The first 100,000 gallons was accepted, and the Board of Health said that was okay. They didn't need a tank. Our engineer feels that a tank will be necessary in Fort Montgomery, and that discussion at least needs to be had. I did say that will not, I did say, and I feel personally, that will not hold up the water, but the problem is, on that one issue, and I have several, on that one issue, if we go ahead with the 50, and actually they need 220 to finish the project, our engineer and our water department we sat in on a phone call with them today, and they both told us that there is no way we have the capacity for 220 and 150 is going to cut the village very close. Again, I want to give all the water possible, and in no way do I want to hold it back. We are responsible to the villagers first. What Bob and the engineer and a couple other people have talked about was moving forward, as long as we have some assurances from the town that they will assist us in giving you more water. Right now, the plant is a 1 million gallon plant, but it can only produce about 720,000 gallons. We have already bonded out in the last couple of months over another $1 million for our water and our sewer. We cannot tax the villagers 100% to upgrade the plant so that we can produce the water. That doesn't mean we have to wait for an upgrade. But we do, this is just my opinion, we need to sit down and have an agreement that the town is going to help us upgrade the plant to make sure that we have enough water, not only for the extra 50 you need to get to the school, but for the 220 you need to finish the project. Both our engineer and our water department said there is no way we have 220 available. And that's what you need to finish the project. That's what I was told. That's
absolutely wrong.
Well, come on up and tell us.
All right, I'll come up and tell you.
Those are the numbers we were given.
I know.
So
I spoke earlier and I said that the fantasy to build out the entire town, which is not going to happen. It can't happen. All the way up Canterbury Hill, all the other parts of the town. It's not going to happen unless the town can come up with $20 to $25 million and build a superstructure, put in a water tank like the engineer had mentioned, and create a elevated dam. So right now, the only thing that the town is asking for is for the school to get water. That's it, nothing more. No 100, 220,000 gallons a day, not needed. They only want 50,000 gallons more to get to school.
Today.
That's it.
A day.
No.
Today, that's what they want.
Yes, no, today. And in the future, I hear you, Mayor, but in the future, if the town came in and said, you know, we just got a grant for $50 million, we need more water. Well, then you'll say, hey, come on, give us some of that money and we'll upgrade and you guys can get it. That's something in the future. But right now, the school needs the water, and this is what's going to happen. If this thing cannot be voted on now, that's fine, that's your prerogative. The trust is going to dissolve at the end of the year. You'll miss the building season, okay? So there's going to be no money coming in from the trust. The town is going to be not have enough money to provide that water and fill that project goal. So as far as I know, I saw the report, yes, the engineer initially had the wrong figures, but then he modified that and made the second report that showed that the capacity was 750,000 gallons a day. And there was still plenty to provide the additional 50,000 gallons per day. So that's what the town is looking for now, and if we can't get it now, then that's fine.
When you say now, you mean tonight?
Well, I thought it was going to be voted on tonight, because you have to understand, the next meeting is?
The 19th.
The 19th, okay, so the 19th, if the village voted on it on that night, now we have to prepare bids to go out for the second phase of the project. And that is going to take probably 30 days. Now you're going to get the bids back in 15, 20 days. This building season's over. We're in November now. So that school is not going to have water.
So you're saying the 2 weeks that we have to wait is going to screw the entire project?
Well, it's not going to screw the entire project, but it could mean that we're not going to have that phase 2. Right now, we have a contractor on site putting in the pipes. That contractor is going to fold up and leave in October. That contractor will be one of the bidders. Not to say that they'll be the successful bidder, but the point is, now's the time to do it. We've been talking about this for a while, and I came here, I thought that this was going to be on the agenda for a resolution. That's all. But I understand these other points about the 220,000 K to needed to build out. The town doesn't need to build out. The town only needs the water for the school. And
it wasn't to build out. It was the 220 was to finish the projects that were on the books.
No.
That's what I was told.
Absolutely.
No, Bob? No?
No, absolutely
The
not.
220 was for the entire town that's not even developed?
Yes.
And that's not what was put to me.
That's why I'm glad I'm here to.
I am glad you're here. The other reason that you mentioned, as far as you thought it was on the agenda, there's another problem with communication. We were not communicated, anyone on the board, nor the water department, about what went in the paper saying that it was going to be on the agenda. Nor myself, our clerk, or the water department was contacted when a story ran that if this board doesn't give the water, our children will suffer. Now this is a new board. That agreement, in my opinion, should have been when the whole project started. We shouldn't be looking at another 50. The 50 should have been there. It shouldn't have been 100, now we need 50, now we need 220. I have no problem giving the money. I did not get a report from our water department and engineer saying we have plenty of water. I don't know if your engineer, because this was just done this past week, has the numbers that you're using 72,000 gallons as of last week, which is going to take you a lot higher than they had thought you were going to need. They're probably going to need 150. Here's my other problem, and this is why I wanted to have a meeting. Oh, no, do you have more? I don't want to.
No, what I wanted to say is that I don't know if you had the engineer's report that I had, and I'll certainly ask the
We talked to him today.
I went to Jim McDonald and I discussed the water that can be treated, the safe yield, and the maximum volume to be treated. Some of the numbers that were coming out were average yields. You can't consider an average yield when you talk. You have to take peak yields at times when it's the hottest and you're using the largest consumption. Right now, to fill the tank, we're cranking out 720,000 gallons a day for the next 3 weeks. Our safe yield is 700. That's an anomaly, but we also had a leak a month or two ago and we lost 500,000 gallons. There's no provision before Montgomery to accommodate any lost water. When the main goes off, you're out of business. The tank being placed will resolve that issue and have a water supply for a day or two, depending on the size of the tank that it's built. My job here is to protect the village water. I don't think I'd be doing that by committing to an agreement for additional water. We're not going to say no to water for Montgomery School. I'm just.
Well, that's all this is, Councilman. This is all for that school, and if you're not going to vote on that, then it won't get it.
And actually, you're wrong, because it's not just that. Because here's what our engineer told me. I realized, now you are an engineer or what?
I'm the attorney for the trust.
Okay, which you're
Yeah, there's a trust that's in place that is a partner with the town to provide water to as many residents in Fort Montgomery as can be provided. Okay, we're working with the Orange County Department of Health, the New York State Department of Health, the Environmental Facilities Corporation. We've been working on this project since 2000, and it's been so long, I don't even remember when we started, 2009.
How much money is left in the trust?
How much money is left is approximately, for this project, approximately $1 million.
How much is left in the whole trust?
Well, that's
3
confidential.
million?
Well, that's confidential.
Okay.
Here's
my problem.
I'm only permitted to talk about what's available to finish the project in partnership with the town.
And that is the problem.
We're looking at a big picture, not just
Yeah.
picking an
No,
arbitrary
I-
number, maybe
and-
an extra 50,000
I
gallons.
understand.
As much as we want to get the water to the school, one of my concerns is, for 100,000 gallons, the Board of Health said, you don't need a tank, it's okay, squeak by. There is no guarantee that at 150, they're not going to say, no, whoa, you need a tank now. Now, we have no agreement, we say, no, you know what, take the 50, it'll put us on the edge, but we want to get the water there. This is why I wanted to sit down and at least have some kind of communication with the town, because if we don't have an agreement that that tank's got to go in, the town's going to pay for it, hopefully through the trust, that now the village has another $1 million we got to pay for.
Right. Well, the trust can't do that, and
Why
it's
not?
Because it's not established for that purpose. It's
Is it established
to
to?
be a partnership with the town. There is a phase 2 for the current project that's going on that has a budget,
Mhm.
and that's all the money that's available. Is what.
Where's the other money going to go then?
There is no other money. There
is
is no other money for the water project.
There's more money in the trust.
No, there is no more money for the water project.
I hear your wording, and that's why you're a great lawyer, okay? There's more money in the trust, and the problem is that we are trying to say that money's supposed to be earmarked to build a water district, and part of that water district is a tank that is necessary in Fort Montgomery. And my concern is, I would rather use money from that settlement
But that's not true.
than our taxpayer dollars.
Mayor, that's not true. You do not know what the settlement agreement was and what that, how that money can be used. It's just like if I'm a trustee of a family trust and somebody says, well, you know what, I'd like to take that family trust and buy that KFC building for the community. Well, it can't be done. The trust is not set up to do that. It's set up for a specific purpose with specific
Which you're not telling.
restraints, which I can't tell you, which I can
Oh,
tell
wait a
you.
minute.
But you want our water,
Wait a
but
minute.
you can't tell
hold on.
Let me just tell you something right now.
Excuse me, no, excuse me.
The
He
people
has
in
the,
Fort
excuse me, ma'am,
Montgomery.
ma'am, he has the floor, please.
Oh, are you kidding?
We have open discussion for that, sir, go ahead.
Good.
All I want to say is, I don't live here, okay?
Oh, dear,
If I walk away tonight and the village is not going to authorize an additional 50,000, fine, the trust is going to be dissolved. There will be no contributions from the trust for the finishing of the water project, which includes the school. So that's all I have to say.
Are you
I'm
saying,
willing to-
you won't give us 2 weeks to talk to the town and make arrangements so that the village is covered? That's all we're looking,
Yes,
we're not saying.
absolutely, no question about it, Mayor, but all I'm saying is, what you're talking about a tank, first of all, I've been informed that there is no tank needed, even though Orange County Department of Health said, well, you should have a tank. It would not be required, it's not required by the State Department of Health, it's not required by the Environmental Facilities Corporation, which is loaning the funding the town's half. So
And
there's
this
a
is-
little bit of a conflict.
And I
between
understand
us.
what you're saying, but this is you just saying that. If I had something in hand from these people knowing that we were okay, that we weren't gonna be hit after the fact with $1 million bill, again, all I'm trying to do, I want water to the school. I want water to the entire town. I want to consolidate. I want to see one
All right, so
town.
then we have your commitment that we're gonna work very hard together for the next several days to get the answers to these questions
Yes.
and concerns, and hopefully we'll have a resolution that can be voted on. Maybe an emergency meeting, the town does that all the time, to vote on it sooner. I'll be free to meet,
Are you at all able to tell us any of those numbers at a separate meeting?
I've told you everything that
Okay.
is there. I mean, there's, what the trust has a legal fiduciary duty to not fund 1 penny more than what the town can pay itself. So whatever's in the town's budget, that's what's in the trust budget for water, okay? That's why there is no extra money for water. That's the agreement, that's the legal agreement, and the trustee has a fiduciary obligation. Very good lawyer here, Mr. Florence, I'm sure could give you a little bit insight into how trusts work, and I'll be happy to speak to him privately as well.
Yes.
If the town agreed that it was in the town's interest for firefighting and backup reserves, that a water tower was a good idea, and if they were able to bond as we did to take care of our tanks, then would there be the 50% match on the part of the trust?
I don't know that. I don't know the answer to that question. Certainly something that we'll look into. I don't know how to answer that at this time. What I'm trying to say is that time has run out. Time has run out. The trust is going to be dissolved in January. So if we're not getting water, if we don't have an approval for a project that's going to include that school, which we already have laid out, because that's all we're talking about right now is the school. If we don't have it done, then the trust won't be here to participate at all, ever. So it's what is that? Don't look a gift horse in the mouth. Here's free money, $800,000. Put it into your school and a few other properties that'll benefit from it as well. It's not just the school, but the fire department. And let's get it done. Let's get water to this school. And I'll be available to meet whenever you're ready. Thank you.
Bob?
Yes. The contract, we talked about the amendment to the contract. The contract is like 10 years old, maybe a little better than 10 years old. It started out at 75,000 gallons. Then just recently it moved up to 100,000 gallons, and now we're asking for another 50,000 gallons. We're not asking you to give us water. We're asking you to sell us water. You're selling us the water at 150% of what the village residents pay. That's not a complaint. We're helping pay for the infrastructure that the village has paid for in the past through their village fees and what have you. So we're not asking for a gift. We're asking to buy water from you. Now, as far as you're worrying about running out of water or whatever it might be, I have an engineer's report from John Fischetti, which it sounds as if you don't agree with that, but that's okay. But in the contract itself, there are two fail-safe provisions. First of all, if you, and during a drought, have a shortage of water, in the contract it says you can ration water outside of the village before you take anything from the village. The other fail-safe is, if we use more water than 150,000 gallons, you can charge us triple the rate as a penalty. So there are fail-safes in that contract. There is no reason why you can't sell us another 50,000 gallons. It just isn't clear to me that there's a reason. Now, beyond this project, which is, we're going to call it a phase 2 of the expansion in Water District 2. We have the school, of course, and that's predominant. We do have a firehouse. We have a church down the road, not the Catholic church, but the one below it, and 11 resident homes, of which 3 of them had the problem with the MTBEs. They're litigants, which we weren't going to get with the first project. As it turns out, one of the reasons we're trying to push this project forward is we borrowed $1.2 million. The town did. The settlement's going to match that $1.2 million. The contractor, Legacy, gave us a bid of $1.2 million. So that gives us a lot of money left over. Now, obviously, in that $1.2 million left over, we'll call it, there's a whole lot of legal fees, engineering fees, and that sort of a thing, which probably puts us up to around $600,000 again left over. 300 of ours, 300 of theirs. We figured that we have enough money to complete this project. We have the school saying that they're willing to do their share, up to about $100,000 to run the pipes from Brooks's to the school. We have the settlement, whether John is oh, he's here. The settlement also said, and you can correct me if I'm wrong on this, if there's an overrun, the town's only got the $1.2 million. We can't tax the residents anything more than that. State control says that. We're getting all we can out of the residents. But if we should go over that amount, the settlement is going to cover the overage out of settlement money. Now, as far as the tower goes, sure. If we had a tower, would it be good? Would it be better? Would it be all of those things? But right now, we don't have the tower. We don't have the funds to put up the tower. So the tower is not in the plans. So John said he's willing to wait 2 weeks. If I have to wait 2 weeks, that's fine. But I would like to see a vote tonight, if it's at all possible, because I think it's the right thing to do. Legacy is 60% finished. That doesn't give them much more time here. Once they pick up and leave, then the bids are going to come in all even. They have an edge up on the other bidders right now. They're mobilized. They're here in town. They can give us a hell of a good price. But if they leave and we have to go out to a general bid, the bid prices are going to be higher, and who knows if we can even afford it. Because again, I have to repeat, I can't tax the people anything more than what we are. Because the controller says so, and Bob Livingston says so.
Just so we're all aware, we all live in the town. It's not town versus village. I'm a town resident. We're all town residents. That's something that's got to be understood. I think some people almost past that, village and town. I understand it is the right thing to do, Bob, with the exception of the fact that you're saying there's 60% on the project of phase 1, and they're already using 72,000 gallons, so obviously a decent amount of these people aren't even hooked up. We're coming already dangerously close, according to our engineer and the numbers. This is what I'm saying. We got those numbers this week. Your engineer did not have those. Okay, you're already way above what you thought your numbers were going to be. And a lot of that is leakage at the trailer park. Okay? So this is a problem. You're saying you need 150. You're only 60% done your project. Not even, that doesn't even mean that the other, that whole 60 is even hooked up yet and using water. That means they're done 60% of the project, and you're at 72. That means you're way over 100 by the time you finish, if it averages out. And then you were planning on 50 for the phase 2. We don't know where that's going to go. Again, if we have the water, it's yours. But when I asked to meet, no meeting set. When I asked that we had concerns.
You asked me to meet?
At the school meeting.
Yes, you did. And I had no idea why you wanted to meet, but in the 2 or 3 weeks since since the school, you have not called me up once to set up a meeting.
That's on you to set up a meeting with me, Bob. You're the one who owns the water.
You're the one who wanted the meeting.
I
You said we have to have a meeting.
We have to
and I
sit
said,
down and
fine,
meet and talk about the
anytime.
water.
I said, fine, anytime. 3 weeks and you haven't called me to set up a meeting. I can't meet on the subject that I already know we're meeting on.
Mr. Mayor, I was party to the signature of the water agreement, and I do have Mr. Sarcone, is he still here? I have a question. Mr. Sarcone, the agreement that we signed, has that changed in the 2 years since we signed it as far as phase 2 and the things that were stipulated in phase 2? Okay. My understanding of phase 2, there was no date certain in that agreement. The settlement master put aside, I believe, $400,000 to do a study to find out the feasibility of providing water for the school. Now, I think we're all in agreement here that we want water for the school. Everybody does. But now, sitting and looking at the finances of the village and the village water district, and how much the village has to look, because every year the village robs Peter to pay Paul to keep the water district running and solvent. This board has a huge responsibility here to evaluate whether or not the village taxpayers could end up on the hook for a decision that gets made on a deadline that all of a sudden has come out of nowhere. I do not recall any deadlines in that agreement. Now, I understand there's a reasonability for the deadline. You can't wait 5 years to make this decision. But it was my understanding in the agreement that I signed with the rest of the board that we had a phase 2 proposal that would go in either concurrently or after phase 1 was complete, because remember, the village needs to see income from the water on phase 1. For the village to allocate another 50,000 gallons, which if they had it and financially they could afford to do it, I think everybody in this room would agree to do it. But to sit here and say in 2 weeks you have to make a decision when this study hasn't even been done is irresponsible in my opinion.
There's no study, and we never agreed to a study in that contract. That was
so that contract, that 400,000.
It doesn't say that. Read the contract.
So
get a copy and read it tomorrow.
I remember signing the agreement.
Then you don't
and the
remember
agreement
the
was
facts.
the settlement master stated that $400,000 around was going to be set aside to evaluate the feasibility.
Wrong.
That doesn't
No.
exist. Okay, I will relook at the contract.
Relook at
so
it.
what is your recollection of the contract?
I don't have it. I'll tell you exactly what it says.
Okay, please.
He
go
said
ahead.
he was going to set aside $400,000 and then dissolve the rest of the trust. And then
Was there a date certain on that?
I don't. No, there wasn't a date
Okay.
certain, but there was no for the trust. They didn't have to stay on forever with that $400,000.
I don't think the village.
But it wasn't for a
forever.
study. It wasn't for a study. It was to be set aside
For
for
what?
a period of time. That if the town wanted to do a phase 2, which would have been more money from the town, not money left over from what they borrowed.
Okay, so what's
the
the
bottom line here is,
$400,000 for?
the bottom line here is in 2 weeks the trust is going to be walking away and that money's going to be gone forever. That's it.
Mr. Circle.
That's all I'm saying. I wanted to warn
Mr.
the
Stein,
village about that. That is what's going to happen. So it's now or never. We're not gonna miss another building season. The supervisor said Legacy is gonna be off-site in October, and therefore, when the bids go out, they're gonna come back in with full bid values as opposed to Legacy, who could save a lot of money. Not to say that they're automatically gonna get the award.
Okay, thank you.
So that's the
Okay,
whole thing.
I'm gonna relook at the agreement. My recollection was Phase 2 was allocated $400,000. I don't think it's changed. I think from the fiduciary responsibility of the village taxpayer, and again, I live in the town. I would love the school to have water, but I also look at how the water budget's set up. And the village has to look at their numbers very closely here, because there is a potential of essentially having to bite the bullet here. So there is a lot more evaluation that, and that's what I thought this study was for.
No, there was no
Okay,
study. I
Thank
told
you.
you that.
Thank you.
No study.
Wouldn't more customers paying a higher rate, I don't mean to jam up the Fort Montgomery residents, but wouldn't more customers paying a higher rate put more money in the coffers? If we have a product that we make, we should sell more of it.
Safely, without question, yeah. If we have the watershed, right.
We do have the water.
June?
Why do you think you don't have water?
Because our engineer and the head of our water department told me that at this point.
There have been studies all along over years, including a recent one, that there is water. You should have, let me finish. You should have probably 100,000 gallons in excess, even after you give the 50,000. These are estimates. And as far as the water tank goes, do you have anything in writing that says that's a requirement? Or is that something that you would like to see happen?
Our engineer said that the Board of Health said that it is a requirement, but they let him go on 100,000 because it was a smaller number than the 220.
Real.
It's also on the original
That's what
plan.
I was told by Manager June. There's no hidden agendas here. You can have the water if we have it. I wish this would stop. It's beyond me. I'm telling you, I had a conversation with I'm not an engineer. I'm not in charge of the water department. I pay Kevin for that. You pay Todd. You pay Todd. He's our engineer. He's also with Falchetti. They both work for the same firm. Okay? I'm getting reports from them. A very alarming report was they projected they were spent using 45,000 gallons. They're already up to 72. That's just one. Falchetti thought we were at 1 million, and now he's adjusted it down to 750 because Todd, his engineer who works with him, said, no, there is no capacity. We don't have a capacity. I'm not saying let's not give water. What I am saying is, could we all work together so that we can give you more water? That's what I'm saying. Our plant is not at capacity to sustain that. We need to spend more money. We don't have it as a village. I'd like to sit down with the town and say, can you help us? Because we want to give the town, Fort Montgomery, more water. That's what we're looking to do. I'm not here to hold water over your head. I have no agenda. I want to give you the water. But I can't give it to you when the village taxpayers have spent millions over the last couple of years upgrading and updating that plant. It needs another $1.5 million, so that we are at capacity more of 900 to 950,000 gallons. Now I'm not worried. Okay, if I was given a report by them saying, no problem, let's do it. You know what? I would have no problem. But the town has not stepped a foot towards us to say, you know what? Let us do this. We're going to do this.
I think the town residents are paying 50% more in their water bill than the village residents, and that goes to help that water plant.
To offset massive costs that we've already put down. Yes.
Your water budget, when it's figured out, the rate per gallons for water, the charge, your budget is taken into account, and that's how you arrive at that dollar amount. And the town resident, no, you're not raising enough revenue in the water to cover the expenses?
Nope. We're not. That's what I'm telling you.
So the water is now in the red.
Wait, our water and sewer, historically, is just making it or in the red. Yes, I'm telling you that. As someone, I don't know if our treasurer just stated, we're borrowing from other accounts, and it shouldn't be like that.
That is simply because of the cash flow, not because you don't raise the money. It's because of certain times of the year, the water fund is low on cash, so it borrows from general, it borrows from sewer, and then when the receipts come in, it pays those two accounts back.
Actually, a couple of years they got in trouble because they did not pay it back. That's the problem. And again, it's not about me holding up water. If we have enough water, you can have it. But what is the town going to help the village with to get, you just talked about this project, that project. If there is any other growth, Corbin Hill, their water blows up and they need to hook up. They can't. Okay, because it's not, that's what I was looking for. I was looking for someone to reach out and say, we'll at least get into a conversation with you to make sure that we have water for the future.
Partner in plan.
A partner.
I think that is a worthwhile conversation, but it's above the 50,000 gallons, which is the immediate problem.
Not according to our engineer. And again, I don't measure the water.
Then I think the two engineers need to sit down and talk, because that's not from the same firm, that's not the information I'm getting.
Well, from the same firm, that day that we met, they both had, one had 1 million gallons, the other had 720, and then Mr. Falchetti rechecked his numbers and said, yes, 720. We went with our guy, because he's the one that's on our, that's at our plant at all times. He's been going through our plant, he knows the capacity of the plant. And I'm not saying either one's right or wrong. Let's all get on the same page. Let's get water to the fort. I'm for that. There's been no discussion from the town. That's all I was asking for. I was asking to meet so that we can talk about what are we going to do when, not if. What are we going to do when there's a bigger problem at the trailer park, and now we don't have the water that we even thought we might have had, because we're not even at the 150. Half the people aren't using it.
I agree, Pat. I agree that there needs to be a conversation, but the 50,000 gallons isn't the conversation you need to have. You need to have it for more, or for, you're looking for money to help with repairs, whatever. The 50,000 gallons is going to help every school child that's currently in that school, every child that will go to the school. It will help the other families that need water.
Yes, it will.
And 50,000 is not going to dry up the faucets in the village of Highland Falls.
You say that, but you don't have the numbers that I have, one. And two, this is being pushed at the last minute, thrown down our throats, and we're being called horrible people because we are against the children, because we won't give them water. I want to give water.
I didn't say that. You said that.
Yeah, I am saying that.
And besides the fact that you and I talked about water last week, so it's not exactly
this weekend we talked about it.
Right.
And I said we need to meet.
And I believe that the supervisor called you this morning.
And I called him back and he was gone.
And you were not there when he called you, so you two missed each other. So it's not a lack. It's not a lack of he didn't call you, or apparently you didn't call him. You just need to get together. But our immediate concern is 50,000 gallons before that contractor finishes, leaves town, and it's not just the trust. It's a time frame. Once you put that out to bid, you have to have a certain time to put it out. Public.
I understand.
There has to be a certain amount of time to respond.
I know.
There's mobilization time. And then we're into winter.
I know the whole scenario. I do. But what everyone who's shaking their head doesn't seem to understand, no matter what, there's a lot of things that this town needs. There's a lot of things that our children needs. Our schools are our focus group. We need a lot there. Okay? At the same time, I cannot snap my fingers and say, it's fine, I'm not worried about what our villagers have paid for and need. And that's the water that they've already paid for. I get a report from our engineer and our head of the water department saying, we have enough water, no worries, then I'm in.
I'll give that to you tonight. I have it.
No, actually you don't.
I do.
From Todd Atkinson today.
I have,
we talked to him this morning is what I'm trying to tell you, John.
Okay.
He was under different.
No, I don't have that.
Okay, there we are.
Well, I have mine. I'd like to see yours. I'll give you mine, and then let's figure
Heard
it out.
that story before, John. Didn't really work out for me.
Why don't establish a meeting time now?
I can meet
Neither of you
2
have
o'clock
your
tomorrow.
engineers meet tomorrow with your engineers, with the appropriate,
I'll call.
you know what they say, fish
Excuse
are
me.
cut bait.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Well, I'll call, please, I'll call our
I didn't
engineer.
clean it up.
Excuse me.
Sorry.
I'll call our engineer. As I said, we're gonna get together. We'll get together and we'll see what we can do. We'll get together and we'll see what we can do. Everything's being thrown down our throat and I'm a little sick and tired of it. Nope. I was at this level 10 minutes ago. Now I'm here because the constant thing is being said over and over again about how come you're not doing it? How come you're not doing it? How come you're not? I just told you. Our engineer and our water department today, I met with them today. That's what they told me. I will call them tomorrow. We can sit down. That's fine.
Okay, but meet with your engineer, and we'll talk to the engineer, and John will give you figures, and I really, each and every one of you, think hard on this, and don't put it off until it doesn't matter anymore, because everything's gone. Think about it quickly, that's all I'm asking.
And we will think about it quickly, but at the same time, coming to us at the 11th hour and saying, think about it quickly.
Last week wasn't the 11th hour, and you and I talked.
Yes, you and I talked about a meeting that never happened.
You and I talked about water, and the fact that the town needed the 50,000, that the town residents could not come up with any more money for other items that you suggested under this program, that there's a limit. You and I talked about that, so please.
The hour is late, we're going around in circles.
Thank you.
Everyone agrees that we need to have an emergency
We will meet.
sit down.
We'll meet with the engineers.
I just have a comment, since you mentioned the place
Yes.
of my employment. I just want to know, you just said that you had a 500,000 gallon loss of water within the village during
No.
this meeting. You didn't say that?
I didn't. Thank you.
500,000, thank you.
400,000, something like that.
Okay, that's a significant amount of water. I want to know where you have your information that the mobile home community is responsible for the overage of water usage. And thirdly, that school has been in the conversation of water to Fort Montgomery since we were contaminated in May of 2000. This is not new information shoved down your throat at the 12th hour. This has been discussed. The people who have been contaminated in Fort Montgomery have lived with MTB in their water, my children included, since May of 2000. I resent the fact that you come up with all this flim-flam numbers, one engineer, the other engineer, is nonsense. That Safefield study has shown over a decade that there's enough water to feed the residents of Fort Montgomery. So stop talking out of both sides of your mouth that we're one community, that you give a crap about all of us. Enough. Those children deserve water. The people in the fort who are in that lawsuit, that trust that you throw around, have lived with bottled water. No cooking with it, no bathing in it, in their water. Okay, we take fast showers. It is reprehensible to me that you would even backpedal 1 second.
I'm not
There is enough
backpedaling.
water
For
in that
those that don't know,
system. And, excuse me, I'm not
Excuse me,
finished.
no, thank you, Ms. Scott.
I'm speaking.
I'll address what you just said, and then
I
you can
thought I
finish.
had the floor.
Thank you. No. For those that don't know,
Excuse me,
excuse
sir.
me, you can leave if you can't handle
We have
yourself.
also paid 50%
For those that don't
for
know,
over a
the school
decade.
just came to us several weeks ago with the fact that they said they will put the money up. The school is putting the money up to put the pipes in. That just happened. Okay, did not happen 6 years ago. Did not happen 4 years ago. Did not happen a year ago. It happened a week, a month, at least a month
I'm
ago.
not talking about
About a
the
month.
school. I'm
About a
talking
month.
about the
You just
town
said
and
the
the residents.
No, you said
I
it
said
is
that
irreprehensible. This has been the
Excuse me,
school.
if you were listening to what
I
I
was listening
said,
very closely.
I said within the trust, the school has always been an issue for the members of that community who have contributed to the trust. We were given a certain amount of money, and in fact, the people who contributed secondary in that trust are paying twice over. We not only gave money from the lawsuit in and of itself, very, very readily, mind you, very readily. But we are now paying for the $1.2 million bond, and we pay for all the other extremities of that. So don't look at like, where does the town, Mr. Sarcone, where do we have the extra money coming from? It's coming out of those very people who have lived with poison in their water for over a decade.
Okay, thank you. We will be meeting, and we will let you know what happens with that. Parking enforcement officer position, last thing on discussion, 10:05.
Playing with people's
Actually, Gina, we need to do that in executive position thing to discuss?
You want to ask the board if you want to go ahead and advertise for.
Okay, that's what we need to do. We need to know if the board wants to advertise for a parking enforcement position. What's happening now is they're using a part-time officer to collect the meter money at a much higher rate than a parking enforcement officer would be. So we are looking to hire a parking enforcement officer to collect the money from the meters. Thank you very much. Excellent, thank you very much, I appreciate that. What does the board want to advertise for a parking enforcement officer position?
Just so I get it, we're going to fund it with letting go a part-time officer?
No, we're going to fund it through the money that's being spent to bring in a part-time officer to collect meter money. And that part-time officer will now go back to doing what part-time officers are supposed to do, which is patrol and do officer.
So he doesn't do any patrol when he's on, he just collects the money?
This was just an officer coming in to the .1 budget. What next?
The budgeting we're going to work out. The bottom line is right now we have an officer that's collecting the toll money.
I'm not against it.
Okay.
I just want to make sure we figure out the money first.
Right.
Before we advertise.
What money? How much we're paying, or it's coming from?
The logistics. Yeah. Okay. I'm not against it. I just would rather have a discussion first about the logistics of the money.
That's what we're doing. We're having a discussion right now.
Okay.
My thought is that it comes out of where the money is coming out right now. And right now we're paying an officer $28-ish an hour, $23 an hour to collect the meter money. Right now it's coming out of Ken's budget.
That's putting us in the red. It wasn't extra money.
Here's the thing, we're not going to be paying him to collect the meter money anymore. We're going to be paying someone half that amount. So how is that putting us in the red? We should be saving money.
No, Mr. Mayor, the money that was budgeted for the meter-based position was cut out.
Right, but it's still but money is being spent for someone to collect the meter money, correct?
Which wasn't budgeted for.
But it's being spent.
Yes.
Yes. Well, we have to spend it. The money is being spent. There's no non-spending it. It's not that we're not going to have it. It's got to be spent. Right now you're having a part-time officer do it, and it's coming out of that budget. Unless there is another budget to find the money in, that's what it will come out of. And now, instead of $23 an hour, we're going to cut that in semi-half, so you're actually going to have more money in your budget.
Then, Mr. Mayor, I would recommend that we do have to find more money to budget for the position. The money that's paying for the part-time officer to come in and to collect the money was already budgeted for salary for overtime doing other police functions, not collecting meter money.
So
there is no extra money there. It's just if you don't bring him in, yeah, he's not going to be digging us into the red anymore. But that we're already set with salaries to pay police officers to do police work.
But we're paying somebody to come in.
We're robbing Paul to pay Peter.
Peter to Paul. Paul already has enough money.
We're both brothers.
Okay. Bottom line is, we are paying someone right now $23 an hour out of this budget. You don't have money in another budget. No money was set aside for it. So to save $9 to $10 an hour, however we're going to pay this person, per shift, we are going to move from a part-time officer to a parking enforcement officer. Bottom line, we're saving money.
That's why I asked, are we going to have the officer come in anyway? I mean, was he doing this on top of his normal duties?
Yes, we were bringing him in.
And you're saying, hey, while you're on your shift for 2 hours, go collect the meter?
No. We were bringing him in extra.
Okay.
It's too busy to put a patrol officer. We only put 2 guys out. So when we cut the money out of the budget, I had no choice. I had to bring an officer in extra. It wasn't budgeted for, therefore
So
we're
we're-
putting us in the red.
Right, we're in the red right now. We're in the red right now by using this person, correct? Correct?
Mr. Mayor, if we wouldn't cut the position, the money out of.
You're right, and you know what? The fact that we cut the position, in my opinion, the way it was described, we were not, that was a move that I would not have made if I knew that we were gonna spend $23 an hour bringing an officer in. That was not discussed during the cutting of this position.
That's why I only ask that we make sure that we have a source of funding for the position.
Funding's gonna come out where it is right now. We're gonna be short. We're gonna be short, Ken. We have the money.
How many hours a week do you go to personally?
Well, that's the small details we gotta work out. 20 hours, 15 hours, I know
So then-
last year.
This year, it's gonna be tough. We're gonna do what we have to do. Money's there. We're gonna take it.
I'll put some numbers together and we can move on that in.
20 hours a week you're gonna collect and maybe fix too?
And we have to
collect
fix, we have to,
That's a big problem.
that's a huge problem. As several people have mentioned, just before, there's a lot of meters that are either full or broken. People are not paying the meter, and yet they're getting a ticket. It was actually mentioned earlier when we raised the ticket prices. How would I give you a ticket when all we need is a road?
And you're saying like around $10 an hour, right? $10 an hour.
Well, the last one was
I gotta look at the budget.
13-ish,
Yeah. I think it was the same.
An hour?
and 13.
I think it was the same-
$14 an hour.
I think it was the same price as the crossing.
Right, so about $14 an hour, so we'd be saving $9 per hour to have this person do instead of an officer. The other part that I'm concerned about is officers are only, part-time officers are only allowed a certain amount of hours per month,
Year.
per week.
It's yearly, but we break it
Right,
down.
now bringing, I know it's only 2 hours, only a couple hours here and there, but I consider Tolby one of our top part-time officers, and by using him to collect meter money instead of patrol and do officer work is a waste of our resources. That to me is even a bigger issue, but I love saving $9 an hour as well. It's gonna be tough this year, we'll do what we have to do, unless our treasurer, who's out of the room, can find some other account to get it from. We're gonna get it from the same, you work with Ed, we'll get, if we have to, it's gonna come from the same account. Bottom line, we're saving $9 an hour. We're in the red already, because the position was,
Well, what I would say is that if we decide to do it, that we could always do a budget transfer from general reserve to fund the position. But that's the conversation I'd rather have. I just want to know if the board wants to take money from the general reserves and refund the position, because we didn't get rid of necessarily the position, we just got rid of the money. So if we figure we need another $6,000 or $7,000 for the year, let's do a transfer from general reserve to that line item, and then fund it for the rest of the year. And then when we get to our next budget cycle, then we can talk about where we're going to string together the rest of the money.
okay.
It might, I believe the village code is set up to where we can come out of the points that are collected.
Yeah, and it'll cycle back anyway, since that goes into general, I think, as well.
That's my only concern.
All right, so with that, can we move to advertise? We can knock out the kinks right now. Can we move to advertise for position? Do we want to set up a price? We want to use the last number we had for the enforcement officer.
Well, I would go 12.
12?
Yeah, because the last person was actually working in the police department as a crossing guard, so he had a couple of years there.
12 it is. 12 it is. Does anyone have a problem with 12?
How many hours, 20 hours a week sounds excessive.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
But
Actually, there's a lot of work that's already done.
it's collecting the money, then also counting it and getting the bank, but it's good in the beginning, they're going to be doing a decent amount because that fixing is what I'm concerned about, and having all the meters up to speed. After that, and that's what Gina and I talked about, when we talk about a job description, we want to try and get it a little more open-ended, so that if after all the meters are fixed and everything's good to go, and they got a rhythm, and they're doing a certain amount of hours, that other things that need to be done
Why don't we
can
say,
happen.
why don't we say in the ad between the 10 to 20 hours a week?
Well, that's what Gina had.
And this individual will be able to adjust the meters for the 25 cent rate?
No, well, we would get a part, there's a machine or something, and we would have to show them how to use it.
I think it's a recalibrated.
It would be a recalibrated, yes. Then they put the stickers on quarter only, and we would have an upgrade meter.
Trust me, there'll be plenty of work for that.
There's going to be a decent amount for a period of time, and then at that point, again, as we had talked about, there are other things will crop up. And as long as we make the job description to where that it will include those, then this person can have a decent, you know. We could always also, if they don't make their number, like we say 10 to 20, and they're always on the low side, there are other needs that we can stipend out for this person, similar to what we did with our historian. She was already there. We stipended out, small project, and was able to take care of it very simple. So there are certain needs in the village office that have to be done. That could definitely be handled by that. So but let's deal with the primary. $12 an hour, 10 to 20, Gina. You feel that's 10 to 20, Ken? 10 to 20 hours, $12 an hour. Parking, enforcement officer. Any other needs for that position?
Well, that's a civil service position, so.
Civil service position. Okay, do I have a motion to advertise for that position? From the board? Anyone? Thank you, Charlie. Do I have a second? Thank you, Bob. All those in favor? For advertising for the position. Not hiring anybody, just advertising. All those in favor? Aye. Against? Thank you. Then we will move on to the next thing. Public comment.
1 minute.
Bring it up, Alan.
1 minute, I know you got an executive session. I'm sure that June, myself, Tony Scicciarini can meet any time, any day that you want to meet. If you would set the meeting up with your engineers, Bob, your water guy here, we're ready to go, and okay, let's go to a meeting whenever you want.
I'll call him tomorrow. If you can meet tomorrow, I'll call you.
There's one more point. I don't blame you for acting like we're throwing you under the bus. You're the bad guys. You're not getting the school water. I don't blame you for it because it looks like that. But basically what it is, if we don't get the 50,000 gallons, the project doesn't happen. I mean, that's what it is. And I'm not trying to hurt anybody, but that's what it is.
You're so dark. Okay, and if we didn't...
Oh, and by the way, one more man for the meeting right here, and he'll give you his card.
I don't know. I don't know.
He'll give you his card when he leaves, and you can contact him.
Listen, there'll be issues that we're going to get loud on, because unfortunately, we have a village in a town. When we fix that, a lot less problems. Right now, bottom line, I have to look out for the village residents, but we are all town residents also. And we want to see what's best, obviously, for the school. Okay? You know you have a fiduciary responsibility to the taxpayers, as do I. And we'll get it done. No more public comment. Thank you. Board comment. Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead.
Girls first. You got it.
Please, I'm sorry. Forgive me if I'm wrong, and maybe misinformed, but I don't believe anybody has publicly thanked our former judge. Special place in my heart. He was a great boss. He's done tremendous things in the short time he's with us. I'm mad at you that you left, but you're moving on. Good for you. I just think that he deserves, and I'm so sorry that the room is now empty, and I'm sorry that it's 10:15. Most people are probably sleeping. I know I would be. But I'm sorry that you didn't get the recognition, and maybe you have. I don't know of any, and I just want to say that. That's one thing. Very special. I think this area has lost a big asset, the little area. Maybe the big area, whatever happens in the future, whatever. Number two, I'll probably get in trouble for making a comment. It was embarrassing the way the meeting went tonight. I know that everybody wants to work together and pull together, and I think that is the goal. When Mr. Livesey came up and said he wants to meet, that's very important. You do need a meeting. I don't think that either side is opposed to a meeting. But I understand the behavior tonight. There was a lot of hostility. I know frustrations. This has been going on forever. And maybe that's the problem. This has been going on forever. You can't be throwing it, and I'm not supporting one person over the other, this is just what I see. That this man has been in here just a short time. There's an awful lot of things that have to be remedied. And it just seems that, okay, well, you're not doing it, you're not doing it, you're not doing it. There's an awful lot of stuff that was on previous people before, and the same thing in the town, the same, everywhere. Let's just focus on getting it better now and lose the hostility and the nonsense, because it was a little embarrassing, and I'm hoping that other towns aren't watching us. That's all I have to say. It was sad, because everybody wants to work together. Let's put the hostility aside and work together. That's the way I see it. Thank you.
I'm just going to be brief. I second, Judge, thanks for your service. You did an outstanding job on the bench. Obviously, the results showed, and we look forward to your future successes. I just, with the risk of the board maybe getting upset, I think this space here is really good. I used to sit up there, and there's a lot of room in here for people to speak, and the camera and everything. I thought it was a great idea to maybe move the meeting here, and I know that there is an affinity with the village and Village Hall and so on, but maybe it might be a good idea to maybe consider when we have hot topics to maybe have them here where there's a lot of room. And I can't imagine how hot the village room would be if we were all in there. So just want to put that forward. Okay,
thank you very much, Andy. I want to thank Betty Johnson again for going, because just like anything else, if she didn't make the move, we wouldn't be here, and half you guys couldn't have come up the stairs.
I had my reasons.
Yes, you did.
The elevator, and
Because you
it
knew
turned
that was
out
gonna
I needed it, which at the time I didn't. But
But thanks
also,
again.
I wanted to tell people to have access to the TV button,
Right.
and the library wasn't allowed.
And I think it did work out well, and I am going to talk to Bob about if the schedule works, to utilize the town board meeting for two main reasons. Our audio at Village Hall is very poor, and the only way to remedy that is more money we don't have. Two, the handicap accessibility to the actual meeting. Those are two huge aspects that are solved today, and I want to thank the town board again for allowing us to utilize the space to make the meeting that much better. If there are no more...
I'll be real quick.
Yes.
I'll be real quick. And on the water, just kidding. I also want to thank former Judge Fastis for what he brought to this community. When I read about it in the paper, I seen you sitting outside your office, and I immediately went up to him and said, I just can't believe what I just read. But you brought a lot to this community. I think a lot of the children that are in this community, you brought them out to be better people, and I want to thank you for what you did. Thank you.
I just have one request, if I may. Is the copy of your engineer's report a matter of public record?
Yes.
May I stop into Village Hall tomorrow and get a copy?
You can foil it if you want. That's no problem.
Can we get it? Can we get it?
What was the question?
Oh.
I wanted to understand, because I thought that his number was 700, not 1 million gallons. So originally, your engineers.
That was a conversation we had with him today.
No, I'm talking about in the past. It was not written down as 1 million. It was written at 700, as I recall. So I'll come in and foil.
That's no problem. Just at our meeting with Falchetti about 2 months ago, that was cleared up because Falchetti said, John Falchetti said 1 million, and Todd was sitting at the table level, I think.
Yeah, he was reading a piece of paper.
Right, and he had said, no, it's
He was under that assumption.
it's 750. Right, that's the only reason. Again, we're not the engineers, we're going by their information.
Yes.
Lastly,
One quick question, Mr.
Yes.
Mayor, please. Does that engineer's report consider the full master plan build-out of the village? The total use of water that would be needed?
No.
For total?
no.
That's all I need to know. Thank you.
Hold on.
Thanks.
I went to a planning board meeting, and I will tell you, these guys are vicious. I'm very glad you're on that board, because they are looking at everything. And those 5 people on our planning board, they do an excellent job. I did not consider third of those questions, they just kept coming, making sure every angle was looked at. And I want to thank you guys for your effort. Lastly, I have an email here from Susan Spear from Senator Gillibrand's office. Thanks for your phone message. I spoke to the Census Bureau. Again, they said their subject matter expert is reviewing the data you provided. They did not provide an indication of when the review will be complete. This is in response specifically to Charlie Murphy going and finding out that the last several years that we have been ineligible for grants was because the Census Bureau, we believe, made a serious mistake on our median income. It went from 45 in 08 to 65 5 years later. We believe they included West Point and some other areas that are not part of our village, let alone our town. Now this has been, because of that, we are $2,000 off the cutoff of receiving a lot more grants for this community. And this has been going on for 3 to 4 years since the census was done in 08.
No, it was 2000 to 2010.
Okay, so it's 10. 2010 to 13. So the last 3 years, we have been ineligible for grants due to this fact. And I want to thank Trustee Murphy. She's championing the cause, and we're going to be able to hopefully receive a lot more grants once this process is fixed. So Senator Gillibrand's office just wanted to let us know they're also on the job. Do I have, is there any other comments before we close? Do I have a motion to close the meeting? Yes. So move.
What's the motion to go?
Motion is to go to executive session. Charlie? So move, go second. Second, Jim DeSalvo. All those in favor? So move.